Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all those of you viewers and listeners, and every single one of you on social media watching us from across the globe. Welcome. I am Freeman Singirankabo, and thank you so much for tuning in to our program today. And if you're joining us live, specifically from our social media, welcome. Thank you so much, and happy Friday or happy early Saturday as joining us. We are thrilled and we are happy that you can take some time out of on our program today. And if it is your very first time visiting, hey man, guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate. But come and sit down and hang out, and then let's feed the thought. Let's be fruitful to our conversation. Let's be intentional, and let's add some value to every single one of our lives today. You can be a part of it if you want. Our Zoom is open for each and every one of you who want to be a part of the conversation. Feel free, and then let's talk about it. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to give us a call, if you want to email us, if you want to join us through our social media or even the website, you are more than welcome to. Our main website is info@afridominion.com. That's email info@afridominion.com. The main website is www.afridominion.com. And so today, guys, I want to jump right in it as I do not have a lot of time. On Friday, I'm usually pretty fast on Friday, or they usually rush me on Friday because they say that most people want to go out, especially for those of you guys who are several hours ahead in Africa. Here in the United States, we are still daytime and nobody's trying to go out right now. But mostly those of you guys who are in Africa on Friday, we want to recognize that you want to rest, that you want to hang out, you want to shift the conversation, you want to shift the activities. So we appreciate that. And for those reasons, we want to make sure that we're going to be really quick about it. But at the same time, though, there are certain conversations that regardless of how quickly you want to be with them, you still have to do what you got to do, and you got to be as timely as you can fashionably be with that. So, guys, with that in mind, my conversation today is going to be surrounded by our daily lives, mainly and applicable mainly for those of you back at home, especially if you are in a war zone, in a conflict zone, somewhere you don't fully feel like you have control over your life. So today I literally want to talk about the control. Who has the control of your life? Are you in charge of your life? Who's in charge of your life? So the main conversation is going to, or the main topic is going to be, say, who's in charge of your life? Is it by choice or by force? And what are you doing about it? Oftentimes, people live their lives blindly. People live their lives on autopilot. People live their lives appeasing one person, one group, or an organization there. You live your life in the eyes of your boss, in the eyes of who pays your paycheck, in the eyes of the person you admire, the person that you are inspired by. But all of that aside, at the end of the day, you are still responsible for the kind of life you choose to live. Now, with our brothers and sisters in Africa, whether you are in the motherland or outside of the motherland, I want to submit to you that no matter whom you attribute your life happenings, whether shortcomings or positive things happening in your lives, at the end of the day, you cannot funk the funk. It is you and only you who is responsible for your life. I'm responsible for my life. I'm not gonna blame the government for my life. I'm not gonna blame my friends for my life. I'm not gonna blame my family for my life. I'm not gonna blame my employer for my life. At the end of the day, it's my choice. I chose to do it for whatever reason, including those of you guys who may say, you're just saying that because you are in a place where you can freely say that. Guys, even a slave literally under siege, even a slave under guard, it still is a choice. A human being, we have accustomed to always having a scapegoat, always having an excuse, always having, because of this person, because of that person, because of this organization, I cannot reach my full potential. Guys, that's just the funk, in my opinion. It makes you feel better when you don't have to be put on spot. It makes you feel better when you don't have to be responsible to the degree that someone can call you out and say, "Hey, you gotta, you gotta pick up the slack." So today, my brothers and sisters, I know most of you might get on my case that who am I to talk to you like that? But I would submit to you that Africa is having so many wars. There are at least 12 countries that I can count that have currently been going through one form of a war or another, one form of a conflict or another, one form of a civil war or another. And it becomes a cycle that just never finishes. And that cycle that never finishes, it starts defining the lives of the people living there, whether in good way or negative ways. And the majority of the times, those of you guys who are in Iraq in a war, it is very difficult to even turn, to have a next turn. If you're stuck between Iraq, you cannot go towards the rock. If there is literally a barricade or a wall, you won't be able to go through either. So you're just gonna have to figure out which one is less painful than the other one. And personally, I'm arriving to the point where I don't have to live in those painful moments also. I chose to be in the painful situation. Regardless of how you got in it, you still have a choice to whether stay in it or remove yourself out of it. That's just a raw truth, guys. We may not like it, but that's usually the bottom line. Human beings, we are the only creatures on planet Earth that when you have had enough of whatever it is that you're into, when you're no longer afraid of being intimidated, when you're no longer afraid of being of being fearful to someone, when you're no longer afraid of any kind of harm that can actually come your way, when all of that is meaningless to you, nothing can come in your way. You do not, you no longer have some sort of fear. You're no longer afraid. You are no longer under any kind of spell or anyone on planet Earth. Anytime you say that I have had it, I have had it, that's it. It doesn't matter what's in front of you. It no longer has a power over you. Brothers and sisters in Africa, I want to tell you today that we have had it with these wars. Guys, we have no weapon manufacturers in Africa. Mass production of weapon of mass destruction, we do not have it. How is it that we continuously figure out a way to find a gun, grenade, missile launchers, a whole lot of these big weapons? How is it that we still have access to it? Someone is dumping these weapons in your arms, in your laps, and someone is making it possible for you to have access to them. It's great business for the merchants of death at the expense of beautiful lives of Africans. You may already be fighting with your uncle, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your friends, your neighbor, and someone makes it easy for you to wage that war that you're already having. If you're beefing with somebody and I make it easy for you to eliminate them or to harm them, I'm already gonna just give you what you are already looking for. Africans, we've already demonstrated that we have this unity amongst ourselves. So merchants of death, when they come to Africa, it is easy for them to sell. Heck, you don't even have to have money. They can give it to you by credit. They can give it to you by land. They can give it to you by inheritance, meaning they can take your land as an exchange. They can take your inheritance as an exchange. They can take your kids as an exchange. They can take your wife, your girlfriend as an exchange. They can take your husband as an exchange. Only in Africa today in 2025. The same shenanigans will not be able to take place in several other countries. In Europe, one attack to one country is an attack to all the countries, specifically in NATO countries. If you attack one nation that belongs to NATO, you attack all the nations. Africans, are we too stupid? Are we too dumb to declare if you mess with one country, you'll be messing with all Africa? Have you ever seen anybody messes up with Maryland as one of the states of the United States? Do you see anybody messing up with New York, California, New Jersey, Florida? You mess with any one of these states, you are attacking the entire United States of America. Do we need to have a brain surgery to realize that the African unity, African countries that form a unity, also create a zone, a war-free, a zone-free, a peaceful Africa? If we control the entire terrain of Africa, as Africans, united, none of these foreigners who are selling guns in various respective regions will not be able to do business. I don't see any foreigners smuggling weapons in Florida easily. They still do it. But it takes a whole lot to smuggle a weapon from Europe all the way to Florida in the United States. They still find a way to do it, don't get me wrong, but it is extremely difficult. I don't see any militia on any place on the United States territory deciding that, hey, all of a sudden this governor is mistreating us. Let's just go ahead and topple them off. Specifically, I want to talk to African Americans or Spanish people, some Asian communities. I mean, there are so many disenfranchised groups in the United States. Just because you are being disenfranchised or discriminated against, it doesn't give you the right to pick up arms and go fight over whichever region that you are in. We see all kinds of shootings all the time. Police, they go hard on any shooter. They have no mercy for you to the degree it's not even a conversation. Meaning they have an impunity towards anybody who attack the United States. They have impunity towards anybody who attack any states. But they literally watch Africa being completely obliterated. They watch millions of lives of African decimated, exterminated. For years and decades, they watched that. Not only that, American weapons, they end up on the front line. European weapons end up on the front line. Asian weapons end up on the front line. Australian weapons end up on the front line in Africa. Because Africa is the only place left for the rest of the world to sell arms, to test arms, and to see exactly what it does to a human being. We are literally guinea pigs in a lab. So if we form a unity, doesn't matter which country you come from within Africa, and we make sure that we have a moratorium towards guns, and we make sure that we have impunity to any group, any person who wants to take over any piece of land of Africa, these wars will be over. Merchants, all these merchants of death, will not have anything to sell in Africa. Now, does that require brain surgery to realize that if my nation is peaceful, if your nation is peaceful, if my region is peaceful and your region is peaceful, we can fight, we can do our bickerings, but we don't want to exterminate ourselves. Let's do that in all sectors, not just on the weapon side. Guys, this is crazy that in 2025, Africans are still dying like chickens. Africans are still being sent to a slaughterhouse like it's nobody's business. And it's talked about on TV just like any other series, just like any other episode. And the next day, same thing. The next week, same thing. The next month, same thing. Guys, what is happening here? The so-called powerful nations, they watch this happening every time. They watch this happening every day. The United Nations, they watch that happen. They even facilitate some of these deals. They are the most incompetent armed forces that I've ever seen on planet Earth, because they're there to facilitate death. Point in case, the United Nations has been in the Democratic Republic of the Congo over 30 years. We have learned that modestly, between 7 million people and 50 million people have died in the Democratic Republic of the Congo under the watch of the United Nations and so many other multinational soldiers. What's wrong with this picture, guys? Is it just me, or African lives don't matter? We just guinea pigs. We just lab rats. It's okay to just come and blow up an African person. There are no consequences. But when you see how the dictators treat their own people, when you see how the governments treat their own people, presidents treat their own people, prime ministers treat their own people, a lot of these high-ranking generals and a lot of these high-ranking military personnel treat their people, yeah, you can definitely say, hey, these are guinea pigs after all. If they don't respect their own lives, why should we? If they consider themselves as guinea pigs, help them. It simply makes sense until we say that enough is enough. So I, for once, I have had it with the death of our brothers and sisters. It's straight up discrimination, guys. It's pure discrimination of the entire planet against Africans. Pure discrimination. Because all things considered, all things equal, apples to apples, it wouldn't be happening in the United States. It would certainly not be happening in Canada. It would certainly not be happening in France, in the United Kingdom, in Germany, in China, in Russia, in Australia, in Japan. I can name so many countries that this will not be happening in. Why? Because they love themselves so much, and they also feel a sense of superiority. At the same time, they also got the same weapons. They do not literally unleash their own mass weapons of destruction towards their own population. But in Africa, they can sell you anything, even for free, even on credit for 30 years. No money down. Those kind of policies are policies that are catering towards the extermination of African people. There's no need to beat around the bushes of that. Even though y'all hate that we speak that publicly, y'all hate that we speak that openly, but that's the truth, and that's straight out discrimination. And which has led me to believe and to actually conclude that unless we do it ourselves, the way we believe it ought to be done, it's never going to be done, guys. It is never going to be done if we don't do it ourselves. And we should not complain to anybody either. Because if I see my brother dying and I don't do nothing about it, I see my sister being killed and I don't do nothing about it, I see your father, my father, your mother, my mother, your auntie, my auntie, they all perish, and I just scream and I'm like, help, help, help. But I'm only even screaming. I'm not doing nothing about it. Come on. Why should you even help me out? If I cannot take action personally, why would you put yourself in harm's way over the things that I'm not putting myself in harm's way? And that's why I boldly speak to you guys. I know this is dangerous. I know there are haters of you guys out there who would not want this conversation to be out like this, or who would not want to talk frankly like this. You're a weapon dealer. I'm killing your market. And the last thing you want is 1,000s of Freemans, 1 millions of Freemen calling you out like this. But the worst part of it, you do not sell those same weapons in your own community. You do not give those weapons to your grandchildren, your family members. It's okay to come and sell it elsewhere, as long as it's far enough so that even if there is any oops or any accident, it doesn't make it all the way to your living room. What's wrong with that picture? We need a new word towards that kind of discrimination and those kind of policies. I'm very critical to our brothers and sisters ourselves because we have fallen into these traps several times. But above all, we have succumbed, or we have allowed some of our own people to literally hold us hostages. We have given them the blessings to turn us into hostages, to turn us into slaves, to turn us into prisoners for life. Imagine countries that you visit and you become mule, and you cannot talk about the government, you cannot challenge any status quo, you cannot talk about the policy, including the deadly policies enacted in place. Because they already put the fear in you that if you speak up, you're just going to be disappear. You're going to disappear overnight. It's like the soil opens up and it just swallows you. That's the kind of narrative, that's the kind of culture that has been given, that has been trained for a lot of African minds to submerge themselves into. Anytime you get a little bit of courage to speak up against it, to fight against it, you find yourself dead. You find yourself being targeted. You find yourself losing your job. You find yourself being smeared. Your name is smeared. Your image becomes smeared publicly or otherwise. Or you find yourself all of a sudden in a bank account that has $2 million, so that you are called a thief or something like that. Guys, these are the wars that we have to fight ourselves. These are the wars that are not going to be over overnight. And these are the wars that require true sacrifice, including our lives, including yours and my life. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to bring my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren to an environment where they are going to be subjugated to the very same thing I'm fighting against. 1 generation, 2 generation, 3 generation, 4 generation, 5 generation, same thing. Come on now. I'm so against that. I am literally against that, like with impunity. And I make no apologies to nobody. Why? Because if you don't want that in your own household, why do you want it in my household? Why do you want it in our community? Why do you want it in our region? Why do you want it on our continent? I literally ask you that plain out without sugarcoating on it. The more we sugarcoat the issues as they are, the more we try to dress them and put some honey and some soup to it, the more we try to say, well, what had happened is really not this person, is really not that person. We just kidding ourselves. No need to sugarcoat around what's already stink. If it stinks, it stinks. There's no need to pull a cologne on it. There's no need to say that, no, it's really not the smell. It's something else. Come on now. Guys, I'm so passionate about this thing to the degree I cannot stand those of you who are a part of it. I cannot stand those of you who are actually promoting policies that exterminate your brothers and sisters, that exterminate your friends, your families. Whether you're doing it for the money or you're doing it out of ignorance, it is still a worse thing that could be brought into our communities. And enough is enough, guys. We have to say no. We have to fight against it. So if you're in on this fight, I'm all in. I personally am all in. And I'm not going to shy away from fighting this fight. Nobody else is going to do it for us, guys. Nobody else is going to do it for us. So I say to you, let's do what we got to do. until we literally see it through. Until we see it through, we gotta do. And I know it won't be easy, but just because it's not easy, it does not be done. It does not mean that it cannot be accomplished. We will get it done, guys, one way or the other. We will very much love to invite you all to come to the fight, knowingly that, hey, this is the fight for my own family. This is the fight for our survival as a community. This is no longer a fight for just one individual, one family, one community. The whole continent has already been targeted. The entire African continent is targeted. You cannot sugarcoat it, guys. You cannot sugarcoat it, because that's just the way it is right now. So why sugarcoat what cannot be sugarcoated? Why try to soften what cannot be softened? That would be simply to pretend like you're not dying when all along millions and millions of people are dying. Millions and millions of people have already perished. Guys, this is not okay. I don't know about you, but I'm not okay with my brothers in the DRC dying overnight, dying in one day, 1 week, 1 month, in years, in decades. I'm not okay with brothers and sisters in Rwanda, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Malawi, in Mozambique, in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, being killed, literally, in Somalia, being killed, in Sudan, being killed, up there in Egypt, being killed. Africa is going through so much turmoil right now that unless we literally take back that which is ours and control it the way it actually helps us, the way it gives us the peace, the way it protects us and protect our own families, we are going to perish. We are going to be exterminated, guys. These guns, these weapons, these bombs are there to exterminate you. They're not there to make some music for you. They're not there to smile at you. They're there for the pure purpose of exterminating all of us. So I'm not all in for that, guys. And I would hope that you are not in for all of that. So, guys, as I have promised you guys, if you want to say something, you can do it right now. The rooms are open. The live feed is open. Come through, have you saying, and if not, we will just move on. On Friday, there are so many things happening, and I want to be respectful to your time, as I had promised at the very beginning. I will literally read a few comments from you guys, and then after that, everything else is gonna be dealt with offline. So, if you want to have a saying in it, this is your chance to say something, and I will do my best to read quickly a few comments. But I would prefer that you come on camera if you can. The feeds are open. If you guys are watching us on on television or listening us to radio station, jump online. If you can jump online on any of our platforms, you can find us. We live on X, we live on YouTube, we live on Facebook, and we live on a few other private networks. For those of you guys who subscribe to them, so meaning we are very much open to your feedbacks and your conversation. Okay, let's do this here. Let's read a little bit of comments, and then after that we go home. Lydia, hi, Miss Lydia. Yes, we know that we have been targeted. Black Lives Matters, but at the end of the day, it is us who have already enabled all these wars. I agree. Young people, I'm too old and I'm saddened to see what is happening to our motherland. We've seen this in the 70s, in the 80s, and in the 90s. And unfortunately, up to this very day, it continues to happen. Only God can take care of this. Papa, yes, it's regrettable that it's happening, but it's not happening from the sky. We actually are a part of what is making it happen, directly or indirectly. My silence, to speak against violence is actually it's actually an approval to violence. If someone is being hurt in the corner store and I just witnessed it and I do not intervene because they say you got to mind your own business, I'm literally supporting that violence around the corner. Just because you want to be peaceful at the expense of the entire community, when the community becomes poisonous, that poison is going to arrive in your own house as well. That's just the nature of poison. That's just the nature of evil. Evil consumes like fire. It doesn't matter where it starts, but it does consume. The minute evil is there, if you do not deal with it front end, that's it. Everything that you care about is going to be burnt. And that's what we are literally witnessing in 2025 happening in our own generation, whereas massive and massive and massive of people are dying. Governments are watching. In some instances, they literally hiding purposely. They hiding crimes taking place. And you still believe and you still think that these governments are working in your best interest. These are like gangster governments whose agenda has nothing to do with what you believe have elected them to do. These are some of the many reasons why not only we got to be vigilant for ourselves, not only we have to scrutinize what is happening to various governments, but we have to take matters into our own hands, preferably trained hands. But doing nothing, it's no longer an option on the table. I, for one, would not stand by when my own people are dying. When I say my own people, from the very immediate family members of mine, all the way to friends, co-workers, associates, I'm not gonna stand by and let that happen. Because if you come in and you step on my toes, and I'm like, thank you for stepping on my toes. And then next, since you realize that I really didn't react to it, you come in, you take my lunch tomorrow. Thank you for taking my lunch. Next, you come in and you punch in my face, and I'm like, thank you for punching in my face. What the heck, man? There are a lot of you who are literally in this predicament that I just described. And you still somehow manage to be thankful for these crimes being committed against you. How do you become thankful to someone exterminating you, to an organization killing you, to an entity with no mercy to you, no mercy to your family, no mercy to your community? I don't understand. It has to be something that have been removed out of our brain. Well, they have a word for it, brainwashing. But enough is enough with this brainwashing, guys. We just cannot be bystanders with our families being exterminated and you're just watching it. At least I, for one, I'm not going to be a part of that. So, guys, that's it for now, man. Right now, it seems like we are 4 or 6 in our studio. The time that you guys have given you for having you saying, I'm not just going to read it. I really want either for you to call in or to come on video. And since most of you guys are not able to come or not coming, but I also recognize that it's Friday night in Africa. And some of you guys are getting ready to leave your jobs, to leave your work right now. We're just gonna finish up our broadcast from here. There's so much to discuss, which I want to bring in on Monday, guys. There's so much to discuss on Monday, but I want to. It would be a remiss if I didn't say to you guys that our brothers and sisters in the Democratic Republic of the Congo could use a prayer or two, could definitely use a prayer. They are in some of the most unfair situations right now. They are being killed, they are dying. They have so much going on in their lives that when you're witnessing it happen, it has a complete different meaning when you are living it. Ask me how I know. I once lived in those conditions myself. So when I see that happen, when you seeing it happening today, it brings me back. But it also reminds me that there are certain wars, certain conflicts that cannot be won by just one person or one individual or one family or one community, which means it takes a collective to literally fight off a lot of these wars. And so, as a community, guys, I really would love to ask of you that you keep in your hearts, keep in your minds, Congolese people, Mozambique people, those in Sudan, those in Mali, those in Central Africa. They literally are going through a whole lot of stuff, guys. Innocent lives, innocent children, innocent mothers, and these people who are just not in a position to protect themselves. So whatever we can do to help them in your own capacity, please consider doing that. Please, please, please consider doing that. Next week on Monday, I will bring you more to that because right now the situation is extremely fluid. Some of the information that's arriving on our desk has yet to be verified, but so far what we've got, it's not looking good, guys. It's literally not looking good. And we know that it won't be looking any good until we do something about it. Are we together? So, with that in mind, guys, let me not leave you on a low tone. Let me appreciate you for always supporting brothers and sisters, especially if you're one of those individuals who is on front line, fighting for the betterment of your brothers and sisters, speaking up for the voiceless, on behalf of the voiceless brothers and sisters. Man, I commend you and we love you guys. And those of you guys who have been helping us out, whether financially, morally, spiritually, we say thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. And if you have yet to support, please consider supporting us. Find us on our websites, find us on our social medias. We are there and we are here to stay. With that in mind, guys, I'm Freeman Kabo here at AfriDominion. Allow me to wish you a beautiful weekend. If you're going to bed, have a beautiful night. If you're waking up, have a beautiful morning. And if you are still in our time zone here in the United States, I want to wish you guys a beautiful day. Have a super fantastic weekend. Until next time, I love you guys. Peace.